Anya here. Today I'm going to try and get a character to fall in love with me through dialogue. This game simulates thousands of citizens and it's a sandbox, so we're trying to help the player tell their story, not listen to our story. But that means rather than maintain hundreds of different dialogue trees for different characters, we have one dialogue tree that almost every single character uses. It helps us maintain it in the future because we're going to work on this game for a long time and we want to make sure that we can keep adding logic to everyone simultaneously. If I improve everyone's reaction to something, it's easier to do it in one tree. Well, that means it's a bit overwhelming at first until you zoom in. This is Node Canvas, the dialogue tree version. And you can follow the single thread of logic. So here you can see that if you've started to make a friend or you've started courting someone, they'll say hello differently. And other relationships types stop talking to you completely. But they can each still have their own personality because the logic determines how they basically feel and how they animate. But the actual words they say are defined by their traits and their culture and their job or whatever else we want. But influence tests are how we let the player ask NPCs for a favor, and then the NPC decides how they want to handle that. So right now we're elaborating crime-related dialogues because we're making NPCs able to confront you or forgive you or look for you, accuse you. And as we go, we'll add more and more options to do with getting information or asking for favors. So if we take a minute and look at how characters fall in love, you can see here that I'm trying to kiss a character and it's not going very well. So here in the main hub, you can see at the very beginning, this is where when you first start talking to a character, it goes through all these checks. Are they tripping? Are they asleep? Etc. But more importantly, what we're looking at today is what is your relationship? If you're a close friend, they acknowledge that. If they're an admirer of yours, they might say something different. If they're courting, if they're your rival, if they're your nemesis. And you can see that here it's previewing what it's going to say. So for example, if someone is your friend, they're likely to just say, yes, friend. And they say, hello, friend. So let's go look at hello, friend. Hello, friend. These are the defaults. But if the character is busy drinking, they're a patron at the tavern, they'll invite you to join them for a drink. If they're a zealot, they'll say something different, intellectual, talkative. So let's go ahead and add a trait for if they're greedy. Then they'll ask, yes, got something for me? And now everyone in the game will greet you differently. If they like you, they're your friend, and also they're greedy. But if we go back, we can also look at these relationships a little bit more in depth. If we go to the personal switchboard, we will see the personal hub. You have options. So we have questions about them, like what's your job, ask about your relationship situation, and then we have a couple of different KISS influence tests. And the reason we have a couple of different ones is because if they like you, if they're in your, if they have if they are attracted to you, which is a secret trait on them. If they're attracted to you, kissing them will be very different than if they're not attracted to you. Just saying. And here we have a bonus if they're lusty, a penalty if they're pious, a penalty if they're wary. And we use influence tests if we want to let the player ask the NPCs for a favor, and then they can either pass or fail depending on how the NPC feels about them, whether they've been bribed, that sort of thing. So for example, if you're just saying hello to someone, they might not want to talk to you if they're a guard on duty, right? So if you're trying to get the guard to talk to you while they're on duty, it's harder if they're diligent. It's a little bit easier if they're lazy. It's much easier if they're talkative, and probably it would balance out if they're both diligent and talkative. But we can also add another factor in which if the NPC is wary, let's say, that now they really don't want to talk to you. And now, boom, all the guards in the game are less likely to talk to you if they're wary. So this is a very forward-thinking system. And I've been putting a lot of thought into what if I want to kiss an NPC. And so in the personal hub, we have a bunch of factors here. So if we try to kiss someone, first of all, it depends on whether they're attracted to you or not. Maybe that's a judgment call on my part, but I do feel like it would go differently even, 1,500 years ago if someone's attracted to you, whether or not they'd want you to kiss them. So we have the attracted flag is something we check here. So if the NPC is a relationship attracted, then it'll go to one kiss test, and if you're not, it'll go to another one. It's just doomed to failure if not, because you definitely aren't courting in that case. But we have lusty gives a bonus, we have pious gives a penalty, wary gives a penalty, drunk gives a big bonus, and then you can share a kiss. And we have a few different lines there, which were very awkward to write, I assure you. Meanwhile, if they're courting you, then they just smile. But if they're not courting you, then they gain the fact that they're courting you. They start the courting relationship. So we add the relationship courting tag. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, how characters can maybe fall in love with you, even if in the actual game it is in fact very, very difficult to pull this off right now. We'll have to revisit that in a balance pass in the future. In this game, it's not just about difficulty balancing or probability of wealth and value balancing, but also difficulty in whether or not someone wants you to kiss them, right? So that's it for me today. And thanks for listening to this devlog of Streets of Fortuna.